Mic Drop Moments is sponsored by Grow Radio. Want to launch your own podcast? Grow Radio are here to help. Grow Radio has launched and supported countless podcasts, and they'd love to do the same for you. Just hit record and they'll handle the rest. No editing stress, no technical faff, just a great podcast released when you want. Need a little extra support? Grow Radio's workshops and courses make getting started easy. Let's bring your podcast to life. Message Grow Radio on social media or reach out to Gary Jones, the founder of Grow Radio. Let's make this happen. Welcome to Mic Drop Moments, and today I'm chatting with the amazing Nicola Noel of Brainworks Therapy. Now, Nicola has literally gone from invisible, hidden to centre stage this year, and we're going to be chatting a little bit about that later. But first, Nicola, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Thank you very much, Sandra, and thank you for having me. So my name's Nicola Noel. I am a specialist psychiatric nurse. I have been for over 2 decades, a transformational consultant and a clinical hypnotherapist. And I take women and corporations from silently screaming to feeling more confident, resilient, to creating radical and ethical leaders, and to create racial equity within the space. So whether that be their own space, if they're solo, or within teams and corporations.
And I love the fact that you've got a career behind you. You know, you're a registered nurse, you're qualified, you've got all that history behind you. So tell us some of your backstory.
So nursing was actually an accident, or a happy accident. So my backstory is childhood SA and domestic violence. And unfortunately, there was a domestic violence incident in the relation that I was that took me to A&E, and that nearly ended my life. And I sat in A&E with a 6-month-old child at the time from 10 at night till 5 in the morning. Nobody came to see me. Nobody took a blood pressure. Nobody took any bloods. Nobody did anything. And I picked up my son at the time and I just said, I'm going home to die. And as I left A&E, I just thought, if I survive this, and there was a very small chance that I would, I'm going to do better, because you wouldn't treat a dead animal like this. And then that's what happened. I then went and retrained and became a specialist psychiatric nurse. So at the time, I was an award-winning makeup artist and a holistic therapist.
So that's a real change. That experience took you to want to make a difference. And you trained and to work in the mental health arena, I know can be extremely challenging. How rewarding was that for you, or did it take its toll?
It took its toll, and to be quite honest, it's not for the faint-hearted. It's a baptism. It's a baptism of fire. So I'm going to tell a story now. And so my first day working on a mental health ward, and at this time, so it's still an old-fashioned ward. So you had a female side and a male side. So you'd have the two doors. So essentially, the two wards would be separate, but you'd have the adjoining nurse's office. And I went down, and we had our trolley at the time, so it was really old-fashioned. So we built the trolley down. It was in like a narrow hallway, and knocked on the door, and I said, oh, and he answered the door, and I said, it's your meds. And he said, no, thank you. I said, okay. And kind of didn't know it was optional, but so then let him shut the door, knocked the door again, and said, meds. And he said, no, thank you. And I said, all right. And then I was like, let me just go to the nurse in charge. So I closed the trolley, went up and said, I've knocked at the door twice, and he's saying no, and he was on serious meds.
Yeah.
And she said, oh, I'll just go down. I turned my back, so we had a glass panel. So I turned my back to get something out of the cabinet. I turned back round, and there were 7 members of staff on the floor. So he had come out and attacked all the staff members. So the alarms were going off. We were going to restrain him. Anyway, when we finally restrained him and sedated him, as you do, because we had to spin his room and search it. When we overturned the mattress, there were 9 knives there, one for every member of staff.
Good grief.
And I just went home. I don't drink anymore, but I remember drinking a bottle of wine and crying and saying, I'm never going back.
Yeah.
But I did.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I did. But it never started off being like, oh, this is so great. It started off like, oh my God, what have I done with my life? What have I chosen? But here I am today.
Yeah. And what was the pivotal moment that made you decide to leave everyday nursing and set up your own business?
The inequity, the inequalities in healthcare that still exists. So there's a wonderful book that I learned with, and it's called Inequalities in Health, and it talks about a massive housing estate in London. And there's lots of studies, and things hadn't changed. So I was in a prison system, and people coming in with trauma. So the most prevalent, I would say, diagnosis within a prison system that the mental health team deal with is personality disorder. Personality disorder is caused by trauma. So why are we giving them gabapentin, pregabalin, lorazepam, diazepam? Let's treat the trauma, because let me be honest with you now, and some people go, but it's the truth. So often we look for monsters that are locked up behind gates. We're told that there's monsters under the bed. But what if I told you the monster's in the bed? And what if I told you the monster's you? If they were loved a little bit more and cared for a little bit more, their trajectory would probably be different, and it wouldn't be in that system.
Mm, mm. I see where you're coming with that, because, when you think about children, when they're in situations that they do have trauma in their life, they have early childhood experiences, and they probably haven't had the best role models. I was listening to somebody speak about this recently, and he was saying that, his whole family were in the prison system, and he was on that trajectory because he didn't have any other role models. But something happened to him. It was a trauma in his young teens, and that trauma was his wake-up call. It was his wake-up call to think, I don't want to be like them. I want to make something of myself. But some people don't have that choice. They don't have that pivotal moment. And without an intervention to find the root of that and deal with the root of that,
Yes.
they're almost just left. And I don't like medication at the best of times. And I know some people have to take it, but I think medication is a mask.
Yes.
And I know some people are on medication. I'm on some medication because it's for a health reason. I have to take it to live every day. And there's nothing I can do naturally as an alternative. But as you say, some of the root causes to medication are from root causes and need that need addressing. And so what is it you do? What is it you love that you're doing now that you couldn't do before?
Oh my God, I'm gonna end up losing my pin here. But what I can do now is I can ungatekeep, because there are methods out there, not woo-woo methods. There are proper scientific methods out there that get rapid and long-lasting results and changes for people.
Mm,
Nobody needs to suffer in the manner in which they're suffering. So I obviously was doing therapeutic interventions in prison. Oh my God. So like, I'm not going back anyway, so it's fine, I can tell you. And they'd be like, CBT. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to crash and burn. So I was like, okay, I'll go in and do CBT while doing, hypnotherapy and stuff like that. And people were just coming off my caseload, and they were like, oh, but it was performance punishment. You get more people on. And so what I learned was the key is therapy. The key is neuroscience. The key is rewiring somebody's brain, which you can do. and changing the neural pathways. And when you change the neural pathways, you change the behaviours. Because there's a thing called synaptic pruning. So if you don't use it, you lose it. And that comes with behaviours and the way your brain adapts as well. So if you start gradually changing your behaviours, if you start changing the way that you think and you feel, because essentially all of us, unless we're intentional, are on autopilot, and that means the body is leading the brain. And I change it so the brain is leading the body the way it should be, and that it's functioning the way it should be, and that you'll get more neuroplasticity. You're able to make better decisions, better choices. So if you think of a bookcase, before you come to me, normally you'd have a bookcase. The boxes would be all on the floor, the files would be all over the floor. When you're finished with me, you have a bookcase with the boxes on in the right order and the files in the boxes in the right order. And when you choose to, you can go back, collect what you need and put it back. But what we don't have is the emotional spiraling and going back and saying, I don't know why I'm doing that. Because you've rewired, you've changed the way you see, do and think about things.
Wow, I absolutely love that. I love that bookcase analogy. Yeah, that really resonates with me. And something else you said, if you don't use it, you lose it. And that is so common in a lot of things, isn't it? We learn stuff, we don't use it, we forget about it. We park it into that inner storage shelf, never to be found again. Maybe, even I've been trying to learn a language, and if I'm in the country and I'm using it, it's fine.
Yes.
When I come home, it's all forgotten. And if you ask me to say a sentence now, I wouldn't remember. Go back to that country, dig down in those little files, maybe pick that book up off the floor and find its place on the shelf. I could speak it again. And I think that's so true. And I think, having that ordered brain is obviously the key to some people being able to move forward rather than being stuck in that spiral.
Yes, yeah, and having hope. And one thing I will say, just going back, quick tip, if you want to be able to do it when you're outside the country, when you're in the country, anchor it in a moment. So I don't know, like if you were in Italy, anchor it at Trevi Fountain
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
something like that. It always works for me. But hope as well. So hope, the biggest thing that's missing is hope. And the biggest thing I find within the medical profession, it's changed a little bit, but is being a parent, the kind of I say you do. So more, telling what I'm trying to say, that there should be more, concordance, work with, not for and telling. And so we need to put hope into people and into the systems.
Yeah. Now, it's amazing work that you do, and I know we've only touched the surface, but I want to talk about Nicola Noel that has just literally gone from hidden to centre stage in the matter of the last 12 months. You bounded into my world, and I don't know where from, but you just started to appear. And then you entered the Woman Who Achieves Awards early this year. No one can forget that winning moment when you collected your award on stage and you were literally stamping your feet and so excited. You're speaking on stages, you're attending high profile events. What was the decision that made you say, right, I no longer want to be this hidden figure. I want to absolutely storm the world and be seen and be really highly visible? And I say you've gone from hidden to high profile this year. What
Mm.
was the rationale behind that?
Um, well, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm quite a defiant person. And when somebody tells me that I can't, for a little while, I take that on and I believe that I can't. However, then I'm like, absolutely not. You will not tell me what to do. And somebody said to me, I was talking about trademarking something, and they said, I don't even know why you want to trademark something because nobody even knows who you are. And I was like, oh, they don't, do they? Okay. And then within 9 months of that comment, I won my first award. And within 6 months of that, I became a multi-award winner by winning the Women's Who Achieves Award. But to me, it was more than that, because when I sat back and I looked at it, and then I realised my responsibility, and I do have a responsibility. So, not just as a woman, but when we double down as a woman of colour, I have responsibility to show up. I have responsibility to be visible. I have responsibility for all those little boys and girls that look like me to see what they can do. For all those little boys and girls who hear my story to know what is possible. I'm nobody special, but I am the extraordinary, and you can become the extraordinary too.
I love that, because I don't know whether you're aware of this. I've always said you can't be what you can't see. And the whole ethos behind Woman Who was to create more women in business role models to inspire others to come out from the shadows and into the spotlight. And
Yeah.
I'm a big believer, if you can see somebody that looks like you and sounds like you, or has had, or shares their story, and you say, that's me, that was me. Oh, if she can do it, I can do it. I'm not on about these celebrities and things like that. I'm on about real women that you can connect with and say, let's meet for coffee. Let's have a chat. And that's what I want to create. More women that are championing other women and opening doors and saying, this is how I did it. You can do
Mm.
it too. And that's the whole ethos behind Woman Who. And I think you're totally living that, which is obviously why you won an award. The judges loved your story. They loved your the way you shared what you do and talked about yourself. But obviously, you are living that. You are totally living that by saying, look, this is me. This is what I've been through. And if you've been there, there is hope. You can achieve, and you can achieve. It's not impossible. It's possible.
Yeah. And I say that because I came from a pool that I was discounted, and that like nobody makes it out. So my friend and I, we was at the Belfry Resort, the spa, a couple of weeks ago, and we were sitting there and we were laughing, more trauma laughing, but we were laughing, and we were saying, look at us. And she essentially does the emergency planning for the NHS. So when big incidents happen, like at the Manchester Arena and stuff like that, she would be responsible for all of that. We're two girls from West Bromwich. Within our year, we went to school with gang members. We went to school with victims of paedophile rings. We went to school with sex workers. We were in a pool, and a teacher had told me, because I had passed my GCSEs a couple of years early, because I was bored, I was intelligent, bored, and I went to college on a weekend and was like just doing this stuff. And, for me, I was like, oh my God, I'm so proud. And he turned around and said to me, you'll never be anything. You'll be pregnant by the time that you're 18, and you'll be a lady of the night, which I then found out was a prostitute. And I was like, oh my God, he has just. And so I was like, okay. And then I had this one teacher, and this is what I mean by being seen, um, being visible and putting yourself out there. And he was a Welsh guy, like proper Welsh guy, and had like a rugby player's build. And he said to me, "Well, Nicola," he said, I just saw such and such, won't say the name. And I said, oh, I haven't seen him at school today. And he said, no, you wouldn't have, because I saw him when I was filling my car up at the petrol station. That was just a mile up the road from the school. And he was robbing the petrol station. And he said, promise me something. And I was like, yeah. He's like, promise me that you'll leave and you'll go and start a life somewhere else. And I was like, the epicenter of the world, West Bromwich, ridiculous. And he said, promise me. Anyway, he's now died, unfortunately. But now I know what he meant, and I did leave.
Yeah, and it's so sad that teachers can label you by one comment. And I was told that I wasn't good enough for university, and therefore I should just, find a husband and get married, and that was the trajectory I went. I believed I couldn't do it until I did it all later on. But you just need that one person to see the possibilities in you. That one statement in your early years can define where you go. And looking back at that Welsh teacher that actually saw what was possible for you, was amazing. But yeah, to be labelled at a young age is so, so sad, I think. And, you know, you have achieved a lot this year, and what you're doing that I love right now, and I'm doing something very similar, is you're putting yourself into rooms. You're not thinking small. You're not limiting yourself to the local area. You're prepared to travel. You're prepared to invest in yourself, and you're putting yourself into rooms where you can have conversations with people you don't already know. And I think that's a great thing for visibility. What made you take that decision to start putting yourself into those rooms?
The process that started, but was, I would say, elevated from the Woman Who. That application, right, okay. So I'm going to be really honest now. I looked at that application, I opened it, and I said, no, I can't do this. Look at these questions that she's asking me. Look at these questions. And I was like, no. And I closed it. And obviously, we know that I deadline dance. I mean, there was minutes to go. I was like, oh my God. When I did that, that's when I really stepped into my power, and when I really started to realise the power of my message, why I'm needed, why I need to be seen. So yes, I started to see that, but I'm going to be honest, I started to play small. I was still playing small, and then I was like, no, absolutely not. And so why that award? Because people are like, oh my gosh, she's happy dancing. That award meant so much to me, because for me, that was a watershed moment. Might not have been for anybody else in the room, but I'd done it. I went out there, I told my story, or at least to the judges. I owned it, and I wasn't hustling for my worthiness anymore, like Brown says. I owned my story. I wasn't walking outside of it anymore.
Mm. And I think obviously that it resonated with the judges. And you say you don't think that people realised how much it meant to you. I think everybody in that room, there was over 300 people in that audience, and I think they felt you were ecstatic, and they felt that. They could see that, and they were there along with you. And, you know, I don't know whether you looked round or looked out to the audience, but they were cheering so hard for you. And we could see exactly what it meant at the time when you won that award, and it was so lovely to see. But it's great. I mean, what advice would you give to anybody that's wanting to sort of come from behind the scenes? You said when you went for that trademark, somebody said, well, why are you trademarking? Nobody's heard of you,
Mm.
which is not great advice anyway. But you obviously, you said you were determined.
Yeah.
But what was it that you said, right, okay, I've got to make myself more visible. I've got to do something about this. Was that a hard decision to make? Was there any point in that journey where you thought, oh gosh, I can't do this. Who am I to put myself out there?
Yes, 100%. And that's what kept me in the shadows for a long time. So believe this or not, for a long time, I believed that I was not a good nurse, and that I wasn't smart enough. So nursing. So originally, I was like, oh, I want to go and be a doctor, and then I said, I'm not smart enough to be a doctor. Totally was, but that hindsight's a wonderful thing. And so I'll do nursing. So I'll get a career, and then that takes 4 years of studying for a doctor. And then when I was on the wards, a doctor said to me, because I was saying the same thing, and she said, we don't need more doctors. We need more highly skilled nurses like you. And I was like, me? I'm highly skilled. So I didn't always believe that I could. However, there was a saying that somebody said to me, and I, at the time, really wanted to like high five them in the face because they said, "Oh, be the change that you want to see in the world." And I was like, "Get out! Be the change you want to see in the world." But now I'm like, "No, really, go and be the change that you want to see in the world. Be the ripple effect, because When you're hiding, it's more uncomfortable to hide than it is to be out and shining. It's like poison in your soul because you are dimming your shine.
Absolutely. I absolutely love that. And we are coming to the end of the podcast, and that in itself was a mic drop moment. But I always ask my guests to leave the audience with a top tip or something, a piece of advice. What would be your mic drop moment, Nicola?
Fall as you rise. So don't climb the mountain to stand on top of the mountain like a tabletop. We don't smash glass ceilings to do that. We smash glass ceilings to pull up as many others as we can. So pull while you rise.
Oh, that's fantastic. An amazing mic drop moment. Lovely to chat to you. And I think it's amazing how you've come from behind the scenes to full front and centre stage. And I wish you all the success ahead. We'll share your links in the show notes. It's been great to chat to you today, Nicola.
Thank you so much, Sandra.